Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Hey folks, today's Monday, May 4, 2026, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. There is a war on Black America, and it is from today's Republican Party. It did not take them long after last week's Supreme Court decision to immediately begin to target Black public officials all across the South. We will talk with folks from Texas, from Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Florida, about what is going on and how they're being impacted. We'll also talk with a sister who's running to be on the Supreme Court of Georgia as well. We'll talk to two brothers who are suing the Trump administration for firing African Americans. We'll detail how they've been firing Black folks in the Pentagon. Michael Harriot of Contraband Camp will join us to talk about how Trump's budget destroys Black America. And Stephen A. Smith told Cam Newton he would love to see every Black person vote Republican in order for them to pay attention to Black folks. Well, Stephen A. is wrong. I'm going to explain to him historically how we did that and how Black people are voting Black interests. The conversation for the next 2 hours is not about a D or R. It's not about an elephant or a donkey. It's about Black. And that's our focus. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
Folks, what we have seen over the past several days is the Republican Party saying we don't give a damn about African Americans. The actions taken have nothing to do with party. It's about limiting Black power. What we have seen over the past decade as the Republican Party angry that Black people were voting in huge numbers when Obama was elected in 2008 and 2012. And what they have done is target Black folks since then. We have seen voter IDs shutting down of various polling locations. We have seen them purging voters. What we have seen is a continual attack on the power of Black folks. The mistake that people make is they keep saying that, oh, you're shilling for the Democrats. You're trying to get us to support Democrat. No, our choice is very simple. It comes down to Republican Party or Democratic Party. What is the conduit through which Black people are going to be able to exercise power? The reality is today's Republican Party doesn't give a damn about Black folks. This is not the 1800s. This is not the early 1900s. What this party stands for today is to limit Black people's political power. And the Supreme Court decision, the Louisiana versus Calais decision, shows us this. Not even 24 hours after that decision came down, we saw Republican state legislatures all across the South announce special sessions. We have seen it in Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi. Florida took action before the Supreme Court decision. The Mississippi governor actually said before the decision came down, we should call the session because we know how they're going to rule. Folks, we need to call this what it is, and that is an absolute attack on Black America by the Republican Party. And there should be a state of emergency in Black America with what is going on. What we should be looking to is having a freedom summer where we are educating, informing, and enlightening folks, signing people up. This must be the most aggressive Black voter campaign since the Civil Rights Movement. I kid you not. I am not sitting here being hyperbolic. What I'm saying that what we are witnessing are folks who want to cement white power, white supremacy. And this conservative right-wing Supreme Court is allowing Republicans to do that. They're instituting their will as opposed to what Congress decided with the passage of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. And so we must be responding in the most aggressive way possible. Let me first bring up as my guest, Kabir Kareem. He is the chair of the Mississippi Legislative Black Caucus. I'm glad to have you on the show. Here's the deal. We've covered the elections most recently. You had some special elections in Mississippi where the courts ordered the elections to take place that broke the Republican supermajority. We've seen the courts rule Supreme Court cases as well. The reality is your state, the higher percentage of Black folks in any state in the country, and Republicans, they want to wipe out this congressional seat of Congressman Benny Thompson, and they're going to wipe out state Senate seats, state representative seats, and seats all up and down the board. This will be the greatest loss of Black political power in Mississippi since the 1890 Constitutional Convention.
First of all, thank you, Roland, for having me on your show today. You're absolutely right. These folks have lost their minds. They're already in the process of putting things in place. Even before the ruling came out, they had called a special session to handle a Supreme Court district where we only have one Supreme Court representative just on and we want another one. And so I really don't know what the governor is going to, what this special session is going to be about. But of course, the governor has to call and do what he wants to do. I want to bring to your audience
hold tight 1 second. I'm having a serious issue with your connection. I'm hearing every other word. So if y'all can get that fixed, please let me know once we do that. Let me go to Tennessee, where we have our Charlene Oliver. She's a Tennessee state senator. In your state, we have seen the Republican governor, Bill Lee, call for a special session. They took apart the Nashville congressional seat, split it up into 3 or 4 different Republican seats. Now they want to turn Memphis into a red seat. And what Republicans are saying is if the whole state supports the Republican Party or they vote red, well, the whole state should be red. Well, Memphis ain't red. Memphis is blue, so they want to wipe out Black power in Memphis. And even though Steve Cohen, who's white, congressman, represents Memphis, that historically has been a seat held by an African-American. State Representative Justin Pearson is running against him in the primary. So they want a white conservative Republican to be representing Memphis.
That's right, Roland. But you know what? Memphis has the right to choose who they want to be their representative. And if that's Congressman Cohen, so be it. If that's Representative Pearson, so be it. But they get that choice. And what's happening now with this special session is Republicans are trying to take that choice away from them and essentially steal another House seat so that Donald Trump can keep his majority in Congress. So what Memphis is a naturally occurring Black district. It just so happens to be Black. There is nothing about the congressional 9th district that is, supposed to be a Black district. It just so happens to be a Black district. And the way that it is drawn is drawn around the county lines. And so it is a naturally occurring Black district. And now they're trying to say, after all these years, that now somehow it is unconstitutional to have a district drawn this way.
But what you also have there in Tennessee, you have a state law. And I saw, I'm trying to look for it right now, you had a Republican. You have a Republican who said, wait a minute, what are we doing right here? We're breaking the law if we do this here. And if they don't completely replace the district, I wouldn't be shocked if what they do to Memphis is what they did in Nashville, split Memphis into 3 or 4 congressional districts as their way of decimating that position.
Yeah, we know this is calculated and it is intentional to take away the ability of Black folks in Memphis to be able to elect who they want. And it's also illegal because in our Tennessee code, it explicitly says that you cannot redraw maps between apportionments. So what we are doing here with the special session is illegal and unconstitutional. And so what the first things that they're probably going to do is have to change the law, which is such a far-reaching norm outside of what we've done when we redistrict in Tennessee. This is outside the norms of what we do when we redraw lines.
So what do you need people to do? Listen, if they call a special session, what I keep saying, we have got to have our people flood the state legislature. We've got to be, doing all we can, protesting and making it loud. But while that is happening, we also got to be mobilizing and organizing and registering our people. So whatever they do, we maximize our power, because the problem is we can't have weak Black voter turnout. Tennessee, like every other southern state, they must feel maximum Black pain at the ballot box. And that means showing up in numbers that we have not seen since the election of Obama in 2008.
That's right. We need people to, first of all, wake up to what's going on. We are in the Civil War. We are not doing it with bullets. We are doing it with the ballot at this point, and they are redrawing maps to do it. So we need people to show up at the Capitol in droves from Memphis to Mountain City. And this is just not a fight for Memphis to fight on by themselves. We need the entire state to show up, pack the Capitol, let them know that we're not going for this. And look, the Republicans started this. They set the new precedent that the gloves are off. So we need to match the energy. So this is not the time to be cute and conform. This is the time to rise up and say, look, we're not going for this, hell or high water.
Absolutely. Senator Oliver, keep us abreast of what happens in Tennessee. We're going to be covering this. I know people are planning rallies, so we want to be able to live stream that stuff because we need all of our people completely engaged, because I keep trying to explain to folks that when you wipe out Black political power, you're wiping out access to billions of dollars in the legislative process when it comes to the city, the county, the school board, the state, the federal as well. And so folks need to understand that this is real. This is absolutely a state of emergency in Black America. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I'm going to go back to Mississippi. We have Representative Kareem, so glad to have you here. So here's the deal. Your state, 38% Black. And so what these white Republicans in Mississippi are likely going to do is they're going to say, we don't give a damn if that's the case. They want to wipe out Black political power. And I'm telling you, this to me is very similar to what happened in 1890 when those white racist Dixiecrats were upset that Black people kept winning in Mississippi. The Republicans in Mississippi are mad that the federal courts kept ruling against them. And the problem is this Supreme Court, with this Louisiana versus Calais decision, has now given these Republicans the power to say, oh, no, we're not sitting here creating districts by race. We're creating this because we can do partisan. They have given these white conservatives an excuse to completely decimate Black political power in Mississippi.
You're absolutely correct. And to add insult to injury, Roland, we're having our special session at the old Capitol where they adopted the 1890 Constitution. Now, some might say that no malicious intent was done, but it's a slap in the face to the 1.2 million Black folks here in the state of Mississippi. And yes, it's 40% of us in this state. Where are you going to go? You want to take out my dear friend, Congressman Thompson? Where are you going to put 40% of Black folk in the state? We are the largest Black populated of peak Black folk in the country. What you going to do with us? We got to be somewhere. We're not going out rolling like that. It's a fight, and we're prepared to do what's necessary.
I was in Mound Bayou, Mississippi on Friday doing a show from there. We went to Shreveport, Louisiana on Thursday. And I'm telling you, what has to happen is, just like Freedom Summer took place, when you had these college students who made their way to Mississippi and other southern states, the same thing has to happen. We've got to have the largest mass black voter mobilization since Obama's election, because everything that we're seeing, I need everybody listening and watching to understand, everything that we are seeing today is a direct reflection on black voter turnout in 2008 and 2012 that scared the hell out of these white conservatives. It was the first time in American history where black people voted at a higher percentage than white Americans. And they've said since then, not again, we ain't gonna have this. And so all of this, the Shelby v. Holder, all the lawsuits, the affirmative action lawsuit, this lawsuit, the battles over the seats in Alabama and Louisiana, is all about how do we destroy 60-plus years of black political progress.
You're absolutely right. And folks need to also, look, we just started practicing democracy in 1965. And here, I'm the chairman of over 58 black men and women. We started out as a caucus of one back in 1967. And he was adopted, he was seated. But before he got seated, Roland, his desk was taken out the front door of the Capitol and sawed in half. And he was a caucus of one for 8 years. And now in 2026, the late Robert G. Clark, our emeritus leader, is turning over in his grave for a situation that should have been taken care of generations ago. But I'm telling you this, our seats have blood on them, and we are not going without a fight. We've got 40% of black folks in the state of Mississippi. Where are you going to put them? If you move one of us, it's going to affect this super majority that they have. So they have to take that in mind as well. And they've been talking about it too. I saw a very conservative person running for governor saying, don't be so quick to move any lines because it can mess up the super majority that we have in the state of Mississippi. But we have to fight, Roland. We have to inform the public. The Black Caucus is going on tour, going to every town, hamlet, and village, making people aware of what's going on with this Calais case. And look, this is not the time to go to sleep. This is not the time to stop fighting. The work is just starting, and we're ready for it, Roland. And we're asking clergy, elected officials, grandma, grandpa, senior citizens, if you got one fang, one claw, it ain't the time to retire and go sit on the porch. We need you, all hands on deck right now here in Mississippi.
Absolutely. Representative Kareem, Mississippi Black Caucus, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
A5.
All right, brother, I appreciate it. Folks, I want to show you. You heard me talk about this here. Henry, go to my iPad, y'all. This right here is the chart that shows you black turnout. I want you to see the black line is white people. The blue line, black people. The next line is AAPI. The red line is Latino. You will see right here, this right here, when you see that black line higher than that blue line, that means that black people in 2008, now it dropped in 2012, okay? It dropped in 2012, but in 2008, that was the first time in American history that a larger percentage of black people voted in a presidential election than white people. Now, you see what happened in 12, 16, 20, and 24. You saw a dramatic drop-off of black voter turnout from 2008 and 12 to 2016. You saw it go up in 2020 due to COVID. Then you saw it go down in 2024 when it was Vice President Kamala Harris running against Donald Trump. They have been seizing on this. And so when you see the stories about Donald Trump's black voter turnout, understand his number looks big when you had in the aggregate, the numbers actually drop. And so we have to understand that our decisions to sit on the couch, our decisions not to vote, our decisions to check out of a political process has played a role into where we are right now. Let me bring in right now the head of the Color of Change. I want to bring her in right now. They are launching an initiative next week that speaks to the need to voter turnout. Nadine Smith is president and CEO of Color of Change. I've been saying, this is a state of emergency. I need black people to wake the hell up, because what this is all about, this is not all a few seats. No, they want to wipe out anywhere from 19 to 24 members of the Congressional Black Caucus. But also, as we just heard in Mississippi, this is going to impact state senators, state reps, county commissioners, city council members, school boards, water districts. Wherever you have black representation, it's going to be impacted. So this decision, not only by losing that black political power, now you're losing access to the people who are going to be putting your interests in play up and down the political spectrum. So we're now talking about potentially billions of dollars being lost from black communities by not having black representation. And it's all because Republicans are saying we have to take out these black folks because they say too many of them vote Democratic, so we got to take them out, and they're going to use it, Nadine, under the disguise. Alito has allowed them to say, oh, no, we're doing this because they're Democrat. No, they are basically saying we're going to return more power to white voters than these black folks.
Well, Roland, you're absolutely right. This is about fear of black power, economic, political, money, power, and respect. It always comes down to that. So this has been a constructed attack financially on the black community. It's not an accident that they went after teaching certificates and nursing, the Parent Plus scholarships, the Graduate Plus scholarships. Project 2025 is a systematic reverse engineering of the progress that has been made in this country when it comes to black people. And so to watch the Supreme Court that has been fully captured by the right finally fulfill, John Roberts' dream since he was a young lawyer in the Reagan Justice Department is to see fully their intent to drag us all the way back. And I'm glad you're talking 1800s, because yes, this is a rerun of the racist Supreme Court. This was how the court responded to Reconstruction. This is how the court responded to black men getting the vote. And this is how they are responding now to an America that is heading toward a multiracial democracy. And for them, they want that is not what they want. They want a white minority democracy that serves only them. And quite bluntly, if we're going back to the 1800s, let's talk about the Gilded Age. Trump calls this the Gilded Age, and he means it. He means that this country should be divided up by a handful of billionaires that are loyal to him, and that, the circumstances that we have to look backwards, back then it was the Pinkerton men busting people's heads, breaking up protests, killing people. Today it's ICE being deployed often to black-led cities. So we really have to understand the full scope of this attack, and we have to respond in multiple ways, including the fact that they're rigging the system, so we're going to have to overwin, not just win, but show up in numbers that show them that we're not going to sit back and let this happen.
Look, again, I said I was in Mound Bayou, Mississippi on Friday, and I had been very critical of Isaiah T. Montgomery, one of the co-founders of that particular town, and we talked about it there, and people said that, I should have given him a little bit more grace. I did more reading, and Frederick Douglass was excoriating him because of his decision and what he had to say. And later, he came to conclude that his vote to strip black people from voting was a mistake, because he thought with time that these white folks were going to essentially soften up, and that's what it was all about. Well, guess what? This week, go to my iPad. This week, Clarence Thomas will set a record as the second longest Supreme Court justice in American history. And the reality is, what the white conservatives have done is use a black man to completely eradicate the power of black people. If you look at a lot of his rulings when it comes to death penalty cases, when it comes to the ability to sue various states, when it comes to voting rights, we talk about Chief Justice John Roberts, who always wanted to get rid of the Voting Rights Act. Clarence Thomas has despised the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act and the Fair Housing Act. And so we are also here because a black man has been complicit in destroying black political advancement?
Without a doubt. And he's been well compensated by that infrastructure for doing so. And that's a reality that we have to face. My grandparents are from Mound Bayou, born in Mound Bayou. My grandparents were part of the first interracial farming cooperative in the Mississippi Delta. And my grandfather was part of the Southern Tenant Farmers Union, organizing sharecroppers to fight back. And so I look to that history with some pride, but also for the blueprint for how we rise in these circumstances when the deck is stacked against us. And it's important to remember black voter registration in Louisiana in the 1870s, when the Supreme Court did then what they've done now, dropped from 130,000 people to 730 people. Because they put these onerous voter identification requirements, literacy tests, et cetera. And so we know the playbook. And when you know what your opponent is about to do, you have an obligation to outflank them. And that is what we're going to do. So yes, it's about registering voters, but it's about engaging people who've never thought of themselves as having a stake in this system. And it's about talking about a future that isn't simply rebuilding everything they've destroyed as they plunder our economy and line their own pockets. It's about building the America that excites people about being part of it. So that's the work that is ahead of us. Not simply talking about partisan politics, but about a future where people can see themselves in it, where they can see a financial security in that future, where they can see political power in that future, and where they can see respect. Money, power, and respect. Once they take your money, once they take your political power, they're going to take your respect as well.
Tell us about this voter registration campaign that Color Chain is going to be launching.
Yeah, so we're going to be registering voters in the South, and we're going after, as I say, the voters, not just the folks who have moved and haven't registered, but we're really going to go after folks who we have black people who we need to have this conversation with, who need to understand what the stakes are. Because, there are a lot of people that say, listen, nothing much changed in my life, regardless of who's in the White House. Well, this is about who's in your city hall, who's in your county commission, who's in your mayor's office. Every single seat, everything that affects your life is being determined by these maps that they are drawing and their ability to neutralize our vote. So we have a huge voter education process ahead of us, but we're not going to shy away from talking to the people who've lost faith in this system to show them that they have power. And if they didn't have power, this Republican Party, this Supreme Court, everything in their power to make sure you don't exercise it.
Keep us abreast what that looks like so we can amplify, get the word out, because I am saying that this is absolutely boots on the ground. There is not a single black organization in America. I don't want to hear bullshit about no parties, about no get-togethers, about no dances. No, I don't even want to hear, hey, we're having panel conversations. No, every black organization in this country needs to be having forums and town halls, touching voters, reaching voters, educating voters, registering people. The focus between May, June, July, August has to be inform, empower, and educate and register. And then come September, October for early voting and election day, turn out in massive numbers. To your point, the only way we change this if we completely overwhelm the system. We've done it before, we can do it again.
100%. And Roland, I'll go one step further. If you belong to a church, if you belong to an organization, a black community organization that is sitting down and sitting this out, you need to find a new home.
Absolutely. Nadine, we certainly appreciate it. Color Change. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I want to bring in my panel right now. Dr. Ome Congo, Debunking Senior, Professorial Lecturer, School of International Service, American University, author of Lies About Black People, How to Combat Racism, out of D.C. Thelma Anderson, creator of the Public Opinion Court, author of Shut Up and Prosecute, out of Dallas. A. Scott Bolden, a Washington, D.C. based attorney. Glad to have all three of you here. Ome Congo, I'll start with you. I'm telling you, this is game on. When I look at Freedom Summer, in 1965, same thing has to be happening right now. When I look at marches and organizing and mobilizing, it has to happen. This is not a moment where we have influencers and others who are just talking on Instagram and TikTok and Threads and going back and forth. No, this is about planning, organizing, mobilizing, educating, because people need to understand, and I need millennials and Gen Z and Gen Alpha to understand They want to lock in white supremacy for the next 50 to 100 years. And the only way you combat that is if a massive black voter turnout happens.
Look, everything that the Republicans are doing right now, that the Supreme Court is doing right now, it's all been planned. You've been laying it down. Started, with Roberts coming in under the Reagan administration. Reagan assigned him with the goal of undermining this. This is a 30, 40-year process. The fact that Louisiana, we said Florida acted before the decision came down, all of these states already had their plans ready to go, the redistricting plans ready to go. They were ready to postpone elections, state of emergencies. Everything that they've been doing has been strategic and methodical. Where's our plan? And how much more power are we willing to lose? How much more power are we willing to use as it relates to Congressional Black Caucus, as it relates to some of the local seats that was being discussed here as well, school boards and all of that? I finally feel like with the elections of 2025, some progress was being made across the country with the Democratic wave and some of these local elections that were being won as well, in addition to the state ones. But you see the Republicans always come back harder. And so, the Democrats need to be on board stronger, but black people specifically, we're spending all of this time talking about, Megan Thee Stallion and Klay Thompson, and spending all of this time talking about this artist or that rapper or this athlete. And at the very moment it's happening, all of the progress we've been made is being undermined and stolen right in front of our face. And they're not even firing a single shot like they did in the 60s with people trying to get their vote, get their rights to vote. They got poll taxes in the face of these new state IDs, these passports that are about to have Trump's faces on it. They're doing everything strategically to meet the 2026 standards. And we're sitting here twiddling our fingers, not paying attention to what's being said on the Black Start Network and in all of the other spaces where there are black people who actually give a damn about our future. It pains me to be living in a society where my children are having less rights than I did, even than my parents did. But that's where we are right now, and it's only going to get worse if we don't wake the hell up right now.
Absolutely. And Scott, when we look at, again, what happened, if you study the Black Freedom Movement, what you saw after Brown was Board of Education 1 and 2, you saw Supreme Court rulings, but you saw lower courts really interpreting that decision or executing that decision. You saw the injunction that was created out of that. You saw African Americans going to the federal court, enforcing the laws of the land, and white conservatives could not stand that. And so they said, we have got to put together our own people where we control the courts. And that's what the Federalist Society was all about. That's what SCAFE and Mellon and the Heritage Foundation was all about. It was about, hey, let's control the political process and the judicial process. And so that's what they're doing. And so, again, the Supreme Court can make whatever ruling they want to make, but the one thing the Supreme Court cannot do, they cannot deny people the right to vote. So our way, our only way, Scott, of responding is to overwhelm the ballot box. And again, we've done it. This ain't our first rodeo, but we have really got to be engaged now.
Yeah, there are 2 points I want to make, Roland, because, and you've covered them, I think, but I want to cover them with specificity. One is voter education. You're right, we got to overrun the ballot box, but the mindset of our communities has got to get right. You know what they say. You know what black men and women say. Government officials aren't going to make a difference. I don't like any of them. It's not going to make a difference for me locally or at the state level, especially the president. And so there's a lot of voter apathy out there. We can no longer afford it. And so on the ground, we need that voter education when we're in the streets and marching, because that's an important component, but it's got to be that voter education. Better yet, a voter value piece to this as to why it makes a difference. You and I talk about it all the time. We are super voters, we're intellectual voters, but those brothers and sisters on the ground that are grinding, that are working class, poor folks, or people who want a better life where politics and economics and the laws can make a difference in their life, but they're not super voters. We got to get them to be super voters. And then with lawyers, the National Bar Association, even the ABA, we got to parse through these Supreme Court decisions and carve out adjustments, carve out carve-outs that say that Supreme Court decision did not gut Section 2. It may have practically, but we've got to create some creative arguments that say not so fast, and then approach the Article 3 courts with these carve-out arguments that may slow this train down. And instead of us moping around and saying, oh, they gutted it, they gutted it, they gutted it. How are we going to fight that? That ought to be our legal game plan or the component of this multi-pronged approach. I hope the National Bar and the ABA will come together on this and try to carve out those carve-outs. It's a multi-pronged approach.
Of course it is, and Thelma, but my whole point is when I talk about educate, inform, enlighten, that means that black elected officials, churches, community groups, there should be weekly sessions everywhere in every city somewhere. I don't care. Every city across the South, every week, somebody should be having a teach-in. Somebody should be having a voter education, mobilization a meeting, where people are able to come out and we walk people through the electoral process, how what happens on the city and the county and the school board and the municipal and the DA and the judicial and the state and federal impacts your daily life. We can't assume people know this stuff. I can't, voting is the end of one process. Before voting, I got to get you registered. Before I got to get you registered, I got to get you informed and educated. And so that, to me, I've been saying is the missing piece. We have too many people hoping people show up. No, if you're in Houston, if you're in Dallas, every week between now and November, somebody should be having a voter education training session every single week. That's how it must start.
You're absolutely right, Roland. And after seeing what I already knew what was going to happen with the Supreme Court case that was from Louisiana, I received a little bit of hope this weekend. And that was in the form of my 9-year-old twin niece, who sat me down and told me about the importance of Martin Luther King Jr. And I said to myself, the same thing that you said when we are in the middle of a new era of civil rights, and we have to put boots on the ground in order to salvage what these Republicans have intentionally done. We saw the writings on the wall in 2013 when the gerrymandering case went to the Supreme Court. And guess what the Democrats did? Sat on their ass. Black people can do only so much, and that's what we have to understand. We do our part. We don't worry about whoever is on the other side. We have to do our part. We have to show up. We have to educate. We have to energize ourselves, because we know when we do, we plays no games each and every time. When we looked at what happened at South Carolina State and how those kids saw that they needed to mobilize by 4:30 that day, in less than 24 hours, they received results. If we are not putting the resources into our HBCUs at this moment to mobilize and energize our up-and-coming politicians, doctors, lawyers, nurses, engineers, who are going to be our voice, we see what they're capable of doing. We have to stop with the cherry picking of who we're going to put in position to lead us to the finish line. This is not the time. We knew that this was coming. We know the Democrats are not going to save us. So we have to save ourselves. And the way that we do that is educate, showing up. If we are able to get on social media, baby, you better post something about the importance of voting each and every day. There is no excuse. We need to flood the algorithm, because if we don't, if we miss an opportunity not only to the grassroots, but to technology, they are going to continue to outpace us.
Yep.
We have to, because we are in dire need at the end of the day.
We are. All right, folks, I got to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk to two brothers who are suing the Trump administration for removing them from their appointed positions. Also, we're going to show you how Trump and Republicans have been targeting black folks in the military. Later, we're going to talk to Michael Harriot, how Donald Trump's budget is specifically targeting everything black. We're going to break this thing down for you. We're also going to hear from people in Texas who are organizing Freedom Summer. We're going to talk with the sister who is running for Georgia Supreme Court. And so it's a lot we're going to be covering. Also what's happening in Alabama. Folks, this entire 2-hour show is focused on how the GOP is a war on black America. I'm also going to play you something Stephen A. Smith said about how he would love for every black person to vote Republican. I'm going to walk you through the history regarding that and also show you present day how today's Republican Party is absolutely and completely anti-black and pro-white voter. Folks, you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Back in a moment.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shootings.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, Dave.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Hi, I'm Swing Cash, Basketball Hall of Famer, and you're watching Black Star Network.
Folks, Donald Trump has done all he can to wipe out black political power, even those appointed. 2 black men, Robert Primus and Alvin Brown, who were fired by the twice-impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief in 2025, have filed lawsuits challenging their dismissals. They argue that the White House did not have cause for their firing as required by law. Primus was a member of the U.S. Surface Transportation Board. Brown previously served as the vice chair of the National Transportation Safety Board. Both men claim the dismissal was a part of a broader pattern of discrimination against black leaders within the government. They both join me right now. I'm glad to have both of you here. Alvin, we had you in previously, and when you look at this here. Donald Trump went after the sister on the Federal Reserve. He went after the sister, brothers and sisters on other commissions as well. And sure, they fired different people, but in the Pentagon, Pete Hegseth, 60% of the people they've been getting rid of are African Americans and females. These people, they believe that white men are the most accomplished and should only be serving in positions.
Well, you know, we're presenting with some troubling patterns all across the independent agencies. Black board members and commissioners have been removed at a highly disproportionately rate, and that's unacceptable. We know that at the end of the day, it's unacceptable, and that's why we're fighting hard to make sure that this doesn't happen again. No one get discriminated again. You know, it is, you know, targeting black leaders undermines the integrity and credibility of these institutions who's worked so hard to make sure that they bring on the best and the brightest, and that's African Americans. They are professionals, and we can do better than that, and it's unacceptable.
And Robert, let's just be real clear what's going on here. You look at their language. They label anybody black as being DEI, as being unqualified. I mean, these people are, I mean, you have this idiot Clay Travis saying that, oh my goodness, it was unconstitutional that Ketanji Brown Jackson was chosen for the Supreme Court, and they call her a DEI hire. So if they see anybody black, they automatically say DEI as grossly unqualified. There's an absolute targeting of black people by Donald Trump, MAGA, and today's Republican Party.
Absolutely, especially in this administration. I find it interesting that they say that we are not qualified, especially when I was nominated under the first Trump administration. So I was qualified under the first administration. A Republican-controlled Senate thought I was qualified when they unanimously confirmed me to the board. And you see that they were cherry-picking black folks, especially on the board. You talk about 60% at DOD. Well, I was 100% at the Surface Transportation Board. And they removed me, even though there was a vacancy at the board, even though there was another white Democrat on the board whose term was expiring. So they bypassed her, and they also overlooked the fact that they had a vacancy to remove me. So clearly, you know, people were saying, oh, it's because I was independent-minded, that I was impartial. Oh, yeah, I was doing my job. But unfortunately, I was doing my job while I was black, and that's one of the reasons why I was removed.
Yeah, and that's what's going on here, Alvin.
That's exactly right.
And again, if they make the argument that, oh, we're removing all folks who are appointed by Democrats, that's different. But they're leaving in place folks who are white, were appointed by Democrats, especially white men, and they definitely are removing black people.
You're absolutely right, Roland. That's exactly what happened to me. You know, there was no one better to articulate that the way you just said it. You know, I was removed abruptly, unlawfully, and no question about it. It was because of my race. I was a target, and that's why I'm not there today.
Scott, the point we made in the previous segment, and I've been saying this, lawyers have a role. When we talk about what's the strategy, there's a legal strategy, there's an election strategy, there's a grassroots strategy, there's a corporate strategy, and so lawsuits are a part of this, and we've got to have our lawyers fully engaged with African Americans to hit these folks in the courts and to have them on the record so all of their emails and their text messages can be made public so we can see exactly why they're doing what they're doing.
And you get legal discovery. And so both of your guests, Alvin Brown, a longtime friend of mine, I presume and hope and know that they have great lawyers, but you presume that the appointments or their terminations are rooted in illegality. You got to presume that because you can't presume otherwise because it's the Trump administration. You can't presume that there's competence in DOJ because it's the Trump administration and they have removed several of the senior lawyers in DOJ who give opinions internally, and many times those opinions are ignored. So you can't presume that. Secondly, you start, whether it's the APA, the Administrative Procedure Act, or you look at the root cause or the root of the appointment itself, you look at the terms, you don't have to look at politics. And I can almost promise you that both of your guests were illegally removed. That's how you get to the lawsuit. They make the arguments, and unfortunately, they have to make their way through the Article 3 court, that's federal court. But here's the deal. It's got to be had. You can get a TRO, you can get an injunction. If you can't get that, at least the lawsuit is pending, and the injustice and the unfairness or the prejudice is going to come out either through discovery or through filing dispositive papers. That means papers that are going to render, the judge can render a decision in your favor on the face of the papers or even after oral argument. But it's very necessary because nobody in the Trump administration is going to take a look within and say, oh yeah, we screwed that up or we didn't do that the right way. The Article 3 courts have got to make them do it, and then you're going to have to go through the appeal process. It's going to be a long fight for the gentleman on your show. At the same time, it's a necessary fight, whether it comes sooner than later, because the Article 3 courts, many of them, like 90% of the decisions, have gone against the administration. It's when you get to the Court of Appeals, 70% of those decisions are against the administration. But when you get to the Supreme Court, in both cases with the gentleman on your show, it may go to the Supreme Court. It's important, it's necessary, but at the Supreme Court, they're very reluctant to constrict the executive power of Donald Trump in this White House. They want to expand it. Why? Who knows? I hate to say nobody knows, but I know you're going to correct me on that, Roland. We know why.
Oh, yeah, we absolutely know why. And I'll say this, Thelma. Here we go to my iPad. This is not tied to this, but this federal magistrate called out the Trump administration for their treatment of the alleged White House correspondent dinner shooter, saying he's been mistreated in jail, treated harsher than folks on January 6th. And I'm sure they're going to probably come after him by saying, oh, here's that Muslim judge. But again, what we're dealing with here, this administration is a clear and present danger to black people. They view black competence as being incompetent. They want to slam anybody who is not kissing their ass. And so if you're not Senator Tim Scott or Leo Terrell or any of these black MAGA people, they believe that you are grossly unqualified. That is what we are dealing with. And we have to fight back with everything that we have to combat these folks.
You know, Roland, the one thing that I think a lot of people are not paying attention to when we're talking about the Republicans and their distaste for educated black folk, like they like to say it in their little hush meetings. We are our ancestors' prizes. What I mean by that is they didn't anticipate that African Americans was going to equip themselves with education. We have more lawyers, more doctors, more nurses, more engineers, more teachers, more educated black folk than they anticipated, which means that our proximity to show up and put BTA, belt to ass, when you are trying to play in our face to take our rights away, they have to figure out a different strategy. So guess what they do? They go and they rip out the seats. They go and redraw maps. They go and do everything possible to try to stop us because they are afraid of our power. We got to stop being afraid of our power. We got to speak up. Be unapologetic in how you show up in the skin that you were born in. Because they are afraid of you means that you show up in your power and show them that, oh, we just not going to sit on the sidelines and allow you to take our seats. We have individuals that can go and fight you in court. We got individuals who can go and save our lives now. You no longer hold the key to African American success, but you will dangle like you do because your access to power and how y'all have equipped yourselves. But make no mistake, we are our ancestors' prizes, and we would never fold when we're talking about taking our rights away.
Congo, question?
My question is, what are you hearing on the inside from other Black people who are still in these spaces? I've heard across various Department of Education, so on and so forth, that they're seeing primarily white males who are being the ones kept on the job. What are you hearing from people who are still within the administration who are from our community?
Alvin?
Yeah, so obviously, the word is, and you hit it right on the head, that, they're replacing African Americans with white males, and that's what's happening. That's why since Trump got into office in his second term, over 75% of those who were fired were African Americans. And so they're replacing them with white men. And in some cases, no one's in a position. So that's the problem. And they're afraid for their jobs. Robert and I are the only two people who are suing President Trump. And so that says a lot in itself. But this is bigger than Robert and I. This is really about making sure this doesn't happen again to anyone else, to be removed unlawfully, as Scott Baldwin said, or be discriminated against. And that's why we're fighting for justice.
Robert?
I piggyback on what Alvin said. I mean, to be honest with you, there are very few Black individuals in the administration and in government that I know at the levels that we're at. Those who are below are keeping their head down. They're hoping that they're not picked, not singled out, like so many of our brothers and sisters have been over the past 2 years. And like Alvin said, this fight is not about my position. It's not about Alvin's position. It's about the rights of Blacks to have these positions, who are qualified and who deserve these positions. This goes back, as I've told Alvin, we've had this conversation. 1911, then President Woodrow Wilson, when he took office, one of his first acts were to remove Blacks from supervisory and managerial roles and segregate the government. And we were reeling for generations, lost generational wealth, lost access, and lost mobility in the federal government. We are at that same point now. It is Woodrow Wilson 2.0.
Yep.
And we need to realize that, not for me, not for Alvin, but for the future of Black folks qualified who deserve to have the opportunity to serve in this government.
Woodrow Wilson, absolutely one of the most racist individuals to ever occupy the Oval Office. Robert, I appreciate it. Alvin, I appreciate it. Keep us abreast of what happens with your lawsuits.
Thank you.
Folks, going to go to a break. We come back. We're going to talk about how Trump's budget is anti-Black. We're going to hear from folks out of Florida and Alabama, what's happening with redistricting there. We're going to talk to a sister who's running for the Supreme Court in Georgia. Also, I'm going to walk y'all through the history of Black folks voting Republican. Stephen A. Smith said something on Cam Newton's podcast that captured my attention. I was texting Stephen A. earlier. And I need people to understand, Black people have always voted in Black people's interest. This notion that we just give our vote away to Democrats is actually a flat-out bullshit lie. I'm going to walk y'all through that. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Be sure to support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each a year. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. Support this show, the 5 other shows on the Black Star Network. We've had more than 47,000 folks who've contributed over our last 7.5 years. And listen, we don't suppress our content. We don't hide it behind paywall. We have it free and open, so your support is critical. It ain't like we got millionaires and billionaires cutting us checks for the content, and so we depend on your support. So if you want to do so, please contribute via Cash App. This is Stripe QR code. You see it right here on the screen. It's also for credit cards, checks and money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo's RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Decade of love, joy, and power. Black Voters Matter is 10 years old, and we are just getting started. This is love with a purpose. This is Black joy in motion. This is unstoppable power. across campuses, neighborhoods, and back roads. Let's go! We show up, not just to vote, but to be seen, to be heard, to belong. We ride together, we organize together. We remind each other that our voices matter, because they always have. Black Voters Matter is about more than ballots. It's about housing and healthcare, clean water and living wages, education, reproductive freedom, and dignity. It's about turning pain into action, turning belief into movement, turning community into power. We don't wait to be invited. We bring the energy. We bring the love. We bring the people. Because when Black communities come together, we don't just survive, we thrive. This is how change happens. This is how history moves. We organize, we build, we win.
My name is Bill Duke, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, y'all, so I'm walking y'all through how the Republican Party is trying to destroy Black America. I have been telling y'all since Trump's inauguration, they've been trying to defund Black America. They have been targeting education, economics, health, civil rights, social justice, every single part of our existence, because what they want to do is cement white power, cement their control in so many of these areas. I'm not providing you emotion. I'm walking you through exactly what it is that they're doing. So this battle right now, when it comes to redistricting and gerrymandering, for Florida, it's not a new one. 2022, the last time, Governor Ron DeSantis, literally wiped out Black congressional districts. He forced it through. Republicans didn't want to do it. He still did it. He drew the maps, not the legislature. What did he do this year? The exact same thing. You have folks like Representative Angie Nixon, who was fighting it, who was arguing, but no, he pushed it through as well. This is what we are seeing take place right now with these Republicans in Florida, because they want to decimate power. But here's what's crazy. The Miami Herald has a story that lays out how they are empowering white voters even over Hispanic voters. So this Supreme Court decision, the Louisiana versus Calais decision, really is advancing white rights. They are suggesting that white people are being discriminated against because you have these minority districts, which is utter nonsense. So they want more white people in power than they have right now. So here you have, if you take Florida and Texas, okay, the population shifts in those two states are driven by people of color, not white people, by people of color. But white Republicans are rewarding white people on the backs of minority population. That's how dastardly these Republicans are operating all across the country. Michelle Rayner is a Florida State Representative. She joins us right now. Glad to have you here. Representative Rayner, they drove these maps through, and was interesting. After the House voted, he had some applause. Representative Nixon was protesting with a megaphone. Somebody posted when the Senate passed it 21-17, they said normally when the Republicans in the Senate pass something, they applaud. They said nobody applauded because even they knew what DeSantis did here was absolutely wrong and in violation of the Florida Constitution. For people who don't know, explain to them why he violated the Florida Constitution.
Well, Roland, it's so good to be here with you. It feels like Groundhog's Day because when we did the maps in 2022, I was actually on your show. So now to be back, 4 years later is actually insane. And I mean, there's no other way to say it. So in 2010, Florida voters voted on the Fair District Amendment, saying that no congressional district, no state Senate district or state House district should be divided up by partisan party or to favor an incumbent. If you recall, the night before the maps were even given to legislators, Ron DeSantis, he released the map to Fox News, and it was a partisan map. And the color overlay was the exact map that we voted on Wednesday. It was also the map that his map maker said I was the only one that drew, that we use partisan data, which is in violation of the Florida Constitution. And also furthermore, it is the legislature's job, it's under the legislature's purview to draw maps to have this process go forward. Now, the governor can offer whatever map he wants, but this map was basically said to us, we're giving you this map. There's no meaningful legislative input. There's no meaningful debate. And in fact, they refused, the map maker and the governor's attorney refused to go under oath in the Florida House. And Republicans allowed them not to go under oath when asking questions. So right now you have a governor that has said the quiet part out loud since he's been in office. He has told us even before he got into office, when he was debating Andrew Gillum, when he said, Florida, don't monkey this up, to the point that we're at now. And he's a lame duck governor. So the quiet part is actually happening in real time.
Yeah, and I need people to understand, again, they stole black seats last time. They want to eliminate black seats this time. They want to decimate Hispanic voters. This map in Florida is all about increasing white power in Florida.
Exactly. The map is shameful. I mean, you have districts. So, for example, if you look at Central Florida, you have folks in Orlando proper, all the way down to Lake Okeechobee, which is, for those who do not know Florida, I mean, that doesn't even make actual sense. You have folks who don't have the same needs, the same interests. You are eliminating Democratic districts, those districts that are driven by Black voters, and those districts that are often elect Black congressional members. You have literally chopped it up. And it was literally unbelievable, because I don't know if you had an opportunity to watch any of the bill sponsor answer questions in the House. She could not answer a single question when we questioned her on the map. I am a lawyer by trade. I do civil rights work as well. So when we're asking her very pointed questions and following back up, all she could say is, I don't know, because they think they're not going to get deposed. They think that they're going to be safe from a lawsuit. But I have news to tell them. They're not going to be safe. The lawsuits have already been filed. More are coming. And what I would encourage people, and you've said this, while this is happening in Florida, we have an opportunity as Black folks. We need to organize. I say this all the time. We have to organize. We have to mobilize. You have to find a political home. And I don't mean a political party. I mean, whether it's the NAACP, whether it is Equal Ground, whether it's Justice Over Everything, you need to find a group of people, and then you need to vote. Because in the words of Chris Brown, that great philosopher, a lot of us are standing outside of the club hating, and we can't even get in. And we're not getting in because we're not organizing, we're not mobilizing, we're not finding a political home, and we're not voting.
Now, last question for you. Where are Latinos? Go to my iPad, Henry. They've cracked. There was a majority Latino district. They've now split them up into two separate districts. Are Latinos making noise? Because when I look at this whole gerrymandering, I see Black folks fighting. Latinos in Florida better realize they getting screwed too.
1,000%. So you have those who are progressive, but also, once again, it's going to take folks who say that they are Democrats to stop leading with being a Democrat and start leading with values and talking to folks. I believe one of your other panelists that was on, she said, we got to kind of step outside of this partisanship, and we got to start talking to folks. Because here's the thing that's happened in Florida. Republicans have taken over the job that Democrats used to do. Democrats used to knock on doors. Democrats used to hold town halls. Democrats used to build relationships outside of an election cycle. Republicans are the ones that are doing it. Now, Black Democrats, some of us are doing it, but we've got to do that as a party. And so I want my, Latino brothers and sisters to understand, just as the train is coming for Black people, do not think it's going to be late for y'all. Do not think that that train will not be on time for y'all, because that train is coming, that train is here, and it is time to make sure that y'all are doing the same thing in the best interest of your people and the things that matter the most to you.
Representative Rayner, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
Folks, this is what the governor of South Carolina said after the Supreme Court decision. Here we go to my iPad. The U.S. Supreme Court upheld South Carolina's current congressional map in 2024 in light of the court's most recent decision on the Voting Rights Act. It would be appropriate for the General Assembly to ensure that South Carolina's congressional map still complies with all requirements of federal law and the U.S. Constitution. And let me give y'all some insight, which is hilarious. So all of these Republicans drew these maps. Texas did it, others, saying race was not a factor. Well, then the Trump administration sends Texas a letter saying, oh, race was a factor. So Texas was defending the map they approved by saying race wasn't a factor. But then all of a sudden they did gerrymandering, saying, well, they told us it was. But the court never affirmed that. So then the Supreme Court decision comes down. So they all go, oh, well, now they're trying to say, oh, no. I know we said race wasn't a factor. Now race is a factor, so now we got to change it. And so South Carolina, this is the current map of South Carolina. You see right here, there are 6 congressional districts, and of course, the blue one, that's Congressman Jim Clyburn. So there are a lot of Republicans who want to get rid of that particular district. Joining us right now is South Carolina Representative Hamilton Grant. And we're hearing mixed messages. We saw what the governor said there. I read one story where they're saying, well, the governor is they're saying, well, he's likely not going to call a special session. But Donald Trump is putting maximum pressure on all Republican states, all red states, to do an absolute gerrymander. And Nancy Mace and others, they absolutely want to wipe out Congressman Clyburn's district. We're talking a lot of Black people in South Carolina.
Yeah, it's almost like when Donald Trump told the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. It's how I took what the governor said yesterday about redrawing maps. Now, one thing that I have heard from Republicans is that they have no interest in redrawing the maps that the Supreme Court upheld, because by the time they go through that and fight it again through litigation, we'll be at census time again. And so I don't think that that's what they want to do, but every single Republican gubernatorial candidate is pushing this effort, is pushing this notion that we need to get rid of the 6th congressional district. And Roland, as you just showed, if you get rid of the 6th congressional district with all those African-American voters, they have to go somewhere. And so some Democrats seem to think that if that is where they want to go and that is what they want to do, it could put several congressional districts at play. But it really just depends on how the maps are drawn. Just like your previous guest that we had, our dear state representative out of Florida, you've got some congressional maps that show my county, Richland County, going all the way up to Lawrence in the upstate. Well, those two counties have nothing in common. And so Republicans are doing the most extreme thing that they can to try to eliminate African-American voting power and people of color in South Carolina.
I mean, we're talking about a state that's 26% Black, a state that after the Civil War, a majority of the legislature were actually African-American. And so, yeah, what these Republicans are scared of, and we heard this in Florida and even Texas, and really in those two places, it all depends on how Latinos vote. They're scared to death because all of a sudden, if Latinos swing Democrat, let's say 60, 65, 70, and Black folks are 90% against them, if Black people and Latinos maximize their voting power, they could wipe out Republicans. And so these white Republicans are saying, I think what I'm hearing is, hey, leave all them Black people in Clyburn's district, because if y'all start carving up them Black folks, they now could cause us to lose in our congressional seats.
And let's move from the congressional seats to some of these state house seats.
Yep.
For the first time in modern history, we've got all 124 seats that are up for re-election in the House of Representatives are contested, which means you have a Democrat and a Republican running. For far too long in this state, Republicans have done the electric slide through the primaries and into November because there were no Democrats challenging that. Gone are the days of that. Roland, I just stepped out from a gubernatorial candidate forum, and this is the number one issue that they are talking about, making sure that we are maximizing and turning out the votes so that we can flip seats, so we come out of the super minority in the House of Representatives and gain some more power in the legislature so that we can protect our representation. What we have seen in the past is that Republicans will take powerful black seats with black legislators, put them up against each other, and make sure that one goes home that they can tolerate instead of keeping both of them. And it's game's over for that. We've got to make sure that we've maximized the turnout, maximize the momentum, and make sure that we protect not only our congressional representation, but our House and our Senate representation at the State House as well.
And the point that you just said that I have been yelling and screaming, you must maximize your power. We should have black turnout at a minimum 70%. It needs to be 80, 85. And I have been saying, Representative, if black people turned out at 70, 75, 80, 85% of our capacity, we literally sweep elections all across the country.
Absolutely. And let me give you this tidbit. South Carolina is the fastest growing state in the country. We're the #1 destination for one-way U-Haul trips, which means people are moving here. Industry is moving here. Imagine if that percentage that you just gave of African-American turnout took charge of what comes to this state, the opportunities that come to this state. We could block data centers from going into our communities and taking our resources. We can make sure that the 5,000 jobs that are coming to Blythewood, South Carolina, from Scout Motors are occupied by African Americans and people of color. We can make sure that kids are going to trade school and graduating high school with associate degrees if they go to a four-year college or if they go straight to work. African Americans can and must do better in the state of South Carolina, and it's time that we show up to the polls to make sure we protect our representation.
All right, then, Representative, I certainly appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Keep us abreast of what's happening there in South Carolina because we've got to we got to stay on this. Representative Grant, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland. I appreciate it.
Folks, the reason we don't have any representative from Alabama is because they are actually in session. Alabama has started today this 11th hour special session to change their districts. Roy Johnson is a columnist with AL.com. He joins us right now. Roy, glad to have you here. Let's get right to this here. 92% of all of Alabama's population growth has been because of people of color, and the white Republicans in Alabama, they want an all-white congressional district. They want to wipe out the congressional seat of Shamari Figures, that seat that was created through battles in the courtroom. They want to wipe out Congresswoman Terry Sewell's seat in Alabama.
Yeah, and they've been very clear about it. They have been blatant about it. They have not been shy at all. One of their better, hey, we just want to send an all-Republican contingent to Congress. They don't just want every seat at the table else to be in the room. But a democracy is one in which all voices, it is one in which ideas and perspectives are then.
All right, Roy, hold tight 1 second. For some reason, you're skipping in every other word. So let's get his signal straight, and so we can get that going. So let me know when we fix this signal. Okay, y'all, Henry, go to my iPad, y'all. So this is Alabama's map, as you see right here. So this is what they want. They want this entire map to be red. So the argument that they are making, and the argument Republicans are making in Mississippi, in Tennessee, even in Florida, is that, oh, because our state is red, then our whole congressional district must be red. Now, y'all got to remember, congressional districts are anywhere from 750 to 850,000 people. So it's not based upon how your entire state votes. So that's their argument. Now, here's my whole deal. Okay, if Republicans in the South are saying that, hey, so goes our state, we should make our entire delegation red, well, guess what? Democrats in Maryland should tell that state Senate president, sit your ass down and take out that one Republican in Maryland. Illinois should say, we're going to make the entire Illinois delegation blue. New York State, we're going to make the entire delegation blue. California should say, we're going to have a 52-0 map. See, you got to fight fire with fire, because what these people want to do, see, y'all, what they're trying to say is, oh, no, we're not wiping out black people, we're making this a Democrat-Republican thing. No, they're wiping out black power. And what we should be telling Democrats, if they go there, you should go there as well. You want to go to war? Let's go to war. Hopefully we got Roy's signal fixed. Roy, you still there? Okay, all right, so we're going to get Roy's signal fixed. Let me know when we have that fixed. I want to pull in Michael Harrod. He's, of course, founder of Contraband Camp. And Michael, I've been positioning this whole thing. That's why I have this graphic, the GOP war on Black America. And again, I ain't dealing in emotion. I'm dealing in facts. And the reality is I look at exactly the data. I look at what they are doing. So here's a perfect example. And so I saw this video of Stephen A. Smith on Cam Newton's podcast. And Stephen A. said something that I thought was interesting. Y'all go ahead and roll it.
I wish for one election that every black person would vote Republican. What? How can he say that? I said, it's simple. Since 1964, the black people, black folks, we have been giving our vote to the Democratic Party at an exorbitant rate. Therefore, they know they got our vote, and they don't have to cater to us as much as we need them to. The Republicans know they'll never get our vote, so they don't give a damn about us. And as a result, we're the only community in America devoid of representation, which is why we're considered disenfranchised. I'm tired of that. What I want is to put ourselves as a community in a position where both parties have to work to get our vote.
Can I ask you this?
Okay. All right.
Do you think you
come to me? All right. So I texted Stephen A. earlier about that, and I'd sent him some information, and I got no problem saying it. Here's the deal why he's wrong. Because what he just said, we've always done that. Always. Black people were hardcore Republican voters after the Emancipation Proclamation and the end of the Civil War. Black people were hardcore Republicans from the 1800s through 1964. Y'all, these are facts, okay? Now, understand, when you look at, matter of fact, Ted Cruz, if y'all want to laugh, Ted Cruz actually posted this stupid-ass tweet where he tried to ask Grok, was it true, of what he read? And it said the first 20, it was something like the first 23 black members of Congress were Republican. And he goes, Grok, is this true? And I was like, dumbass, you didn't pay any attention in history class? We all know that was true. Black people were riding with Republicans because radical Republicans pushed through the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. It was Southern Democrats who were fighting Republicans. Now, when the Great Compromise of 1877 happened, guess what? Republicans sold black people out. Black Republicans called out Republicans by saying, y'all sold us out, y'all left us out to pasture. Congressman White gives his Great Phoenix speech. He was the last African-American who was in Congress from North Carolina, and he gave that great speech on the floor of the House. Now, guess what? Herbert Hoover was a Republican president. Herbert Hoover was the leader of the Lily White Party. Herbert Hoover, black people still voted for Herbert Hoover because Democrats were worse. What happens in 1948? You now begin to see Democrats nationally begin to embrace. They put civil rights in their plank. Of course, Senator Hubert Humphrey gives a passionate speech on the floor. He was fighting Southern Democrats. Now you begin to see the crack. People go, okay, all right, because black people were saying, well, Republicans ain't really riding with us. So you go to 52, 56, then you get to 60. Jackie Robinson, black Republican, was employing Richard Nixon to do more to get black people's vote. Kennedy was sitting here being aggressive with it. Black folks shifted, solidified black support because Stephen A. started in 64 when Senator Barry Goldwater opposed the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Black people said, oh, hell no. Jackie Robinson, black Republican, campaigned against LBJ. Barry Goldwater then votes against the 65 Voting Rights Act, calling it unconstitutional and unnecessary. So the reality is Nixon comes in 68 with the Southern strategy appealing to white voters. The Republican Party since 1964 has been anti-black and pro-white. Their entire agenda has been to appeal to white voters. Now, this is very simple. What I would tell Stephen A. is black people ain't dumb. Black people have not given our vote away. Black people have made the decision that white people have not weighed. Black people, I need all y'all people who love saying, yeah, you a shield for the Democratic Party. Just listen to this here. Black people have always been smart with our vote. Because you know what we said? We said, okay, who is fighting for our best interests? From 1865 through 1960, it was Republicans. Black people said, here my agenda. Who is supporting my agenda? Which one of y'all? And it was Republican. And then when Democrats embraced black agenda and Republicans didn't, black people went, we voting Democrat. Y'all, this is the equivalent of being at a dance. And you want to dance. And you like, well, who gonna ask me to dance? Well, the Republicans don't even look at you, don't even talk to you, and walk right past you. And then when you go to Republicans, they say, get your ass back. I ain't dancing with you, but I want to dance. So Democrats are looking my way. Now, I'm gonna go dance with them. See, y'all need to stop saying that black folks are giving our vote away. No, we are making strategic decisions. So when Stephen A. says they should compete, Stephen A., Republicans do not want to compete for the black vote because they benefit from the white vote. No Democratic president has gotten a majority of the white vote since '64. There's a reason, because they support the pro-white supremacist party. I'm gonna give you some data before I bring up Michael Harriot. George W. Bush ran for president in 2000. Do y'all know why many black and Latino members of the Texas legislature did not campaign against him? Because George W. Bush supported the Texas HUB program. That was the program that allowed blacks and Latinos and others to get state contracts. Yeah, it passed underneath him. Last year, Republicans, Abbott, Patrick, got rid of that same program. Oh, remember when the 10 black people got killed by the white supremacists in Buffalo? Representative Jamal Bowman put forth a resolution calling for the condemnation of white supremacy. Every Republican voted against it. Who supports Confederate licenses today? Who supports Confederate flags and the renaming of the keeping of Confederate monuments? Republicans. I'm gonna give you one more. I'm gonna give you two more. There are Republicans that have gotten black votes. If y'all have never heard of George Voinovich was a Republican. He was the mayor of Cleveland. And you know what he did when he ran as mayor? He met with black people. He talked with black people. He delivered a black agenda. When he ran for governor, he got upwards of 40% of the black vote. When he ran for United States Senator, he got about 40% of the black vote. So this notion that black people are not going to support a Republican is a lie. That's if the Republican actually delivers for black people. Last one I'm going to give you. Trump comes in last time. Do y'all know what one of the first things that he did? One of the first things that he did was what the Republicans did was they actually overturned a bill in Congress that dealt with auto lending. I don't want y'all to hear what I'm saying. It dealt with auto lending. So the point of it was to stop discrimination in auto lending. Well, the Republicans said, we don't need this. The black folks said, wait a minute, what we doing? How y'all opposing this very thing that deals with discrimination? They said, we need to unite as one. Y'all all remember Reclaiming My Time? That's what started when Maxine Waters was on the floor of the House saying, I reclaim my time, and no, I'm not giving you my time. So one of the first acts of the Trump Republicans was to get rid of an Obama-era rule that dealt with discrimination in auto lending. So Stephen A., if that is the Republican Party's history, present-day history, since '64 to present day, why would black people be dumb enough to vote for them to further suppress and oppress our people under the guise of, well, if we all voted for them in one election, then they would become benefactors of black people. We already did that, and they stopped. Michael Harriet, founder of Contraband Camp. Michael, you looked at the numbers. All of these Negroes, especially a lot of these brothers who voted for Trump, talking about, oh, he's going to deliver a check to us. It's all economics. The reality is we've seen a massive decrease in black-owned contracts. Trump's budget wants to cut further. They want to get rid of the $37 billion federal DBA program. They keep yelling how Trump was amazing for HBCUs. His budgets tell something else differently. They are attacking every facet in black America, education, health, economics, you name it, in Trump's budget. So please show me the great benefactor of Donald Trump helping black people.
So first, let's start from the beginning of what Stephen A. Smith said, right? So first of what he said first, and this is a thing that a lot of people don't know, right? So black people did vote for black congressmen, put them in office, but this is the thing that disproves what he says, right? When it came to president, most black people, because, you know, the black people in the South were mostly prevented from voting, but the majority of black voters in 1936 and 1942 voted for Republican presidents for Democratic presidents while voting for Republican congressional members, right? So that tells you that they were deciding who they would vote for. So the majority, ever since they've ever calculated the black vote, there is no time when the majority of black voters have not voted for a Democratic president. They voted for Republicans on the local level. But since 1936, the majority of black people who were allowed to vote have voted for the Democrats.
And that's because, Michael, Republicans nationally, again, Herbert Hoover led the lily white faction of the Republican Party, and black folks like, oh, hold up, you aligning with the white, with the KKK? Oh, hell no. And so the shift from Republican Party started with Hoover. Now, granted, Woodrow Wilson, violent racist, but black people said, wait a minute, y'all ain't down with us? And they began to lose black support, and they began, to your point, 36, the next election, that's how it began to move.
Right. Now let's think about what he said logically. What he's saying is the Democratic Party doesn't do what black people want them to do because we just give them our vote. So his solution is to just give the Republican Party our vote, and I don't know what the rest is, right? His solution is, if he says that the Democratic Party doesn't do what, black people want them to do because they get our vote, then by proxy, he must be saying that the Republican Party does exactly what white racists want them to do because that's who gets their vote, right? And so, none of the logic of what he says makes sense. It doesn't make sense logically. It doesn't make sense historically. It doesn't make sense data-wise. It doesn't make sense numerically. He's just a person who's saying stuff on TV. And this is the interesting thing, right? A lot of people think that he's playing footsie with the MAGA party to get these viewers. But, Roland, I'll tell you this. I went and heard Stephen A. Smith give a speech in 2012, and he said exactly this thing. He's been saying this for over 15 years. He's just a Republican. So I think that's what you have to understand when you listen to him speak. He's been running this same game for more than a decade. He's not doing it out of logic or history or knowledge or because he wants to get into politics. This is who he is, man, right? This is what he believes. And I don't think it's a grift. I think he's just a conservative Republican.
And my deal is very simple. I deal in facts, not emotion, and the data is the data. And I reached out to you because you did a piece on how Trump is trying to, frankly, defund HBCUs while trying to claim he did the most for HBCUs. But if you go through the budget that Russell Vought, Trump's head of the Office of Management and Budget, presented to Congress, it is an anti-black budget, period.
Right. Every year I go through the book says, well, this is the things that every budget, Biden, Trump, regardless of the president, does, right? And so our piece comes out tomorrow on the 2027 budget. But instead of going like the top 10 things, I went through every agency, right? So what he wants to do is use every agency to defund the stuff that he can't do with executive order, right? Remember that there was this directive that he signed, right, to take away the changes that Biden made for black farmers. And the court knocked that down. Well, his new budget says, hey, we're just going to get rid of that whole program, right? So he's going to defund that program in the Department of Agriculture. And we think of like the big departments, but this is one thing in every department that's basically anti-black, right? He wants to get rid of every department's Office of Civil Rights, right? He wants to defund anything that has black or indigenous or immigrant attached to it. He wants to defund the Minority Business Development Program, right? A judge said he couldn't do it unilaterally. Now he does it through the budget. So he's asking Congress and these mainstream Republicans, remember, this is not just Trump's budget. He doesn't get to do this unless his colleagues accept this too. So it's not just a Trump thing, right? This is a Republican agenda.
Yes.
An anti-black agenda that it goes through every agency in the federal government.
And that anti-black Republican agenda is the House, is the Senate, and extends down to Republican-controlled states as well.
Right. And like there are some stuff that you won't hear about on the news and they won't tell you about unless you just dig into it for yourself. For example, right, in the Biden bill that was the American Rescue Act, they had this program, right, called Increasing Land Capital and Market Access Program. It was basically a program that gave funds to nonprofits that helped black farmers retain their land. Trump's budget defunds that, right? And he uses this thing, right, that basically says like they're using it for stuff to buy stuff for bathrooms and soap and all of that. And what's happening is there are a bunch of black farmers who are growing the vegetable that you use to make loofahs and selling them to soap companies, right? And they're making money, right, by selling this product that they grow. It's a farming program. Trump wants to defund it, and he's trying to convince them that, oh man, they just want you to buy them some washcloths. It's crazy, this budget, when you dig into it, right? He wants to defund anything that has to do with maternal health or health disparities among minority people. It's a very draconian, fascist budget that is tailored to appeal to white supremacy.
Absolutely. And so, folks, I want to thank Michael Harriot with the Contraband Camp. I wanted him to walk through. And y'all, this ain't emotion. This is not us saying, oh, the D's are better than the R's. We choosing donkey over the elephant. No, we're choosing black. And when you choose black, you are smart enough to know who I'm sitting here looking at that's going, well, I can actually speak to my interests. Folks, subscribe to contrabandcamp.com. Contrabandcamp.com, great information that Michael Harriot does with Contraband Camp. Please support them as best you can. Michael, thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Roy Johnson is still with us, AL.com. Roy, we were talking about Alabama. Republicans are moving swiftly. And again, they could wipe out the two African Americans representing Alabama. And so that would just screw so many black people in Alabama by saying, hey, y'all won't have any representative because we're going to assign you to white members of Congress.
Yeah, Republicans here are being very blatant about their desire to the African-American power, to dilute the voting power of 27% of Alabamians in this state by essentially saying, and House Speaker Nathan Ledbetter said this, that this must send all Republicans to Congress, that it has the right to do that. And what they're saying is, yes, we're going to erase Terry Sewell. We're going to erase some figures. And that if you aren't for us Republicans, then not only do we want every seat at the table, we want every seat in the room. We don't want anybody to be in the room. And I don't know about you, Roland, But for me, a democracy, as I said earlier, is a place where all perspectives are debated and dissected before a fair vote is taken and counted, and they don't want that to happen. So today in the Alabama legislature, this special session that Governor Ivey called right after saying she would not call one, they introduced HB 1. And this bill is not so much a redrawing of maps. It's not a redistricting bill. It is a Hail Mary. It is a contingency bill. 2023, this lost in Allen versus Milligan when the Supreme Court, this very same Supreme Court, decided that the maps that this state drew were racist and that it did put a disadvantage to African American voters. And in fact, which was supported by Chief John Roberts and Justice Kavanaugh, the conservative judges, they said Black voters here have less opportunity than other Alabamians to elect candidates of that choice. That is a direct quote from Supreme Court opinion in 2023. Well, now Alabama wants a mulligan on mulligan. They have already tried to get the Supreme Court to lift an injunction. They sent an injunction down that is preventing the state from redrawing its maps until after the 2030 census. And so they've sent a Hail Mary asking the court to override that injunction. And even though in this current ruling, in the Louisiana ruling, the majority opinion, Samuel Alioto said, this ruling did not overrule Mulligan. It did not overrule that case at all. Despite that, Alabama's trying, and they tossed out a Hail Mary, and this bill would allow for a special call. The primaries here are May 19th. So they're trying to create a bill that in case the Supreme Court grants their Hail Mary to lift this injunction, that they're able to introduce a special action after the primary. Totally nullify the primary, would cost voters hundreds, not millions of dollars. And all this is being done in this compact time frame when elections are being held this month, and then, of course, the general election in the fall. So Republicans here are very, very clear about what they want, and they want to send all Republicans to Congress as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Roy Johnson, AL.com. Was really appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. I'm going to go to my panel. Then Danielle Ayers, I'm coming to you real quick. Scott, this is real simple. Roy talked about the Hail Mary, Alabama. That's what they did in Louisiana. They lost the case in Louisiana to the Supreme Court. They tried to bring it back to Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said no, and then they came up with another way of doing it, filed the Khaled case, and then they got exactly what they wanted 2 years later.
Yeah, exactly. And now they've suspended elections or these primaries until they can redo the map in Louisiana. These are just affirmative acts. That it's not sleight of hand. They're just coming hard because they're embracing themselves with, and this is the stupidity, I must say, of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court had to know what they were doing.
Of course they did.
Because they said, well, pardon me? Yeah,
of course they did.
Because when you say, well, it's reverse discrimination to draw these districts by race, but you can do it by political affiliation because that's race neutral. Well, voting patterns are not race neutral. They're rooted in race. Historically, we know what the numbers say about white people voting for white people, black people voting for black people, although black people also, as you say, are pretty smart with their vote. They vote their interests, right? But if you know all of that's true, then you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. You can't believe that drawing districts by politics or political preference is going to get you a fair map.
Yeah.
It's against human nature.
Yeah.
But if you don't think that black people are human or brown people should have an equal opportunity to create a district where you're going to have black representation, then you're going to get this because that's a conservative think piece. But it's a conservative lie.
Yeah.
And it's lying about reverse discrimination.
I need quick answers from Thelma and Omekongo. I got two guests coming up. One I got to get to very quickly. Thelma, the Supreme Court, listen, they're not impartial. They are doing the bidding of the Republican Party, pure and simple. And this is exactly what the Federalist Society wanted when they got these people on the court.
let's draw to the fact that there's a information that has come out that they allegedly had dinner with Donald Trump the night before this ruling came out, and the 3 liberals was left off of the invitee list. So we knew this was going to happen when Trump was able to pack the court with these incompetent Supreme Court justices that he was able to put into play. So right now we have to actually strategize and make sure that when November comes, we're able to put a dent in some of the damage that he's caused, because we know that there are 2 Supreme Court justices that are likely to go out. Likely. And one look like us that ain't us. So if we're going to make sure that we get to control, we do have to look at how the Republicans have operated, reverse uno them, and then capitalize in November so that we get to control who is going to be the next 2 Supreme Court justices that we can then equalize to undo the damage that they have caused.
I'm in Congo. Bottom line is this here. Again, if you don't vote, you don't control who wins the United States Senate, and that's who confirms or picks Supreme Court justices. And so folks got to understand, voting impacts all of this. You cannot talk about advancing an agenda if you ignore the part that voting states. Real quick.
The great Bayard Rustin said, they protested because they didn't have the right to vote. And he said in 1979, when you have the right to vote, you don't have to protest. We need a combination of both. And with the voting being the most important part. The voting is the most important aspect and most powerful aspect of protesting that we have today. And without that, we're finished. Bottom line.
Let me bring up Reverend Dr. Danielle Ayers. She's co-director of the Black Faith Coalition in Texas. Danielle, y'all have been talking about doing Freedom Summer, and I just fundamentally believe we must have Freedom Summer in every single southern state in this country. We must be flooding the zone. We must be having training sessions and teach-ins every single week. We must say we're going to hit every single black voter. We have to have maximum black voter participation, and our goal should be to break the number that we set in 2008 with the election of then Senator Barack Obama as president.
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. I want to first give a shout out to my senior pastor, Frederick Douglass Haynes III, Reverend Dr. Frederick Douglass Haynes III, Senior Pastor French U.S., will also have the privilege of serving as the pastor of justice, but also co-directing the Black Faith Coalition. So for us, Freedom Summer 2.0 is a tool or a tactic in our larger toolbox where we are looking to build Black political power throughout the state of Texas. So for Freedom Summer 2.0, while it is in the legacy of 64 Freedom Summer, which was access to the ballot box, right? 2026 Freedom Summer 2.0 is about dealing with the constant voter suppression tactics, the various machinations that are always implemented, and the ways in which this semblance of democracy is being dismantled. So for us, it's a 2-day convene that we will do in 3 cities. In Austin, Houston, and Dallas. And we're asking folks in surrounding cities and areas to join us. So Friday night is more of an artist series, right? It's going to be an opportunity for us to experience some joy, live music, but it's music with a message to get us ready for Saturday, where we will convene and have a series of trainings. So the series of trainings will be around understanding the role of public policy, the role we play in crafting public policy with our legislators, but also following that policy or that law all the way through to the end. And if it's passed, becomes law, becomes policy, how do we keep up with, make sure it's implemented and evaluated so we know what changes to make? We're going to also have training around what does it mean to be an organizer? How do we really do ground level work to get one-on-ones to really get people connected and engaged to the entire political ecosystem? And although certainly voting is a big part of that, but also what does it mean to run for local office? How do we prepare people to run at the very local levels? Because that is also where we have to make sure we show up and vote all the way down the ballot, because we have to make sure we have folks in office at the local levels as well, and not just focus on the federal level. So it's going to be around organizing. It's also going to be around how do we train, how do we do messaging? How do we make sure we are all learning some common lens, common language, so we all know what we're talking about and where we're going. So it also, because it's Black Faith Coalition, we will also have opportunities for senior pastors, clergy, or just people of faith to understand what does it mean to live out your faith in public life. What does sacred text tell us in terms of how do we use our voice in the public square? Why you need to go down to city council meetings, and why you need to serve on boards and commissions in your local city. So we're looking to really have various types of targeted training to equip people to understand voting season and after voting season. And so part of our North Star is going to be, while we're doing these trainings, how are we building a policy agenda for the 90th Texas legislative session? We're already meeting with some of our legislators. Some of them have been appointed to committees. So we're already talking about what we want to see them do by way of policy and law at the 90th session. So part of this is, how do we see ourselves as part of a larger ecosystem, voting, serving on commissions and boards, running for local office. And then, of course, it has to be turnout. But turnout why? Tell people why they need to turn out.
Yep.
Texas, I believe, has 4.5 million eligible Black, but we have more eligible Black voters in Texas than any other state.
Yep.
And so for me, is that, and I tell people, we're not a red state. And I hate when people say Texas is a red state. We're an organized state, right? So we're doing our part to see how can we organize Black Texans to build Black political power. So we're doing regional meetings right now where eventually they become justice hubs. So it's not just one organization, one church, one leader leading everything. It's about we all have power and access to that power, because some people are leaning into, well, we're going to be the minority majority state. It's going to work out. No. Demographics do not win political power. Organized people do.
Yep.
So our goal is to go to these various regions, Central Texas, North Texas, and East Texas is where we're starting, but we plan to span out. We have people in West Texas reaching out saying, can you come out to Abilene and help us organize? So for us, it's about building power at the very basic level, but having it regionally, because some folks have regional things in common they need to connect with. We have to move beyond this isolation, being solo, trying to be the only one, but to really pull our resources together, organize in a way that builds power, builds capacity, so this can then be pushed out to other states to do the same thing.
What is
so
the
Freedom Summer 2.0 for us is very, very critical that people connect and engage and get the training and education, cultural civic literacy. We have to do that, because many times people are Go ahead.
First of all, I got to go to my next guest. What is the website if people want more information?
So the best place to find us right now is going to be follow us on Instagram at Black Faith Coalition. All the information and details are there. The link is there. The link tree is there to sign up, get connected, get engaged, and get all the information to be connected with Freedom Summer and beyond.
All right, then. Danielle, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Folks, in Georgia, the primary is coming up. There are a lot of things on the ballot. You got the primaries happening, but you have 2 Supreme Court races that we're paying attention to that could also impact judicial decisions in that state. One of the folks who's running is Miracle Rankin. She's running for the Georgia Supreme Court. And folks, understand, Georgia has this weird law that if a Supreme Court justice resigns, then they appoint someone and it invalidates the election. That's insane to me. Miracle is running. Miracle, she joins us right now. We just saw the special election ahead in Georgia where there were 2 Democrats elected from the Public Service Commission. That shocked a lot of people. And so at the end of the day, you're going to need a massive turnout in order to beat the Republican in this race. Walk us through and explain to people, because I've been yelling this for years, why it's important for us not to ignore state Supreme Court races.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and good evening, everyone. I'm Miracle Rankin, and I'm running for the Georgia Supreme Court. The way our courts are set up, it's a nonpartisan race. So when running, no one's running with the Democrat or Republican by our names because it's nonpartisan. And the way that we win is just making sure that people understand what's at stake on our state's highest court. I think one of the things that we have seen that has been, discussed is the implications and what happens when certain rights are taken or stripped away at the federal level and is sent back to the states to decide. So, there are 3 branches of government and one branch is the court. So a lot of times the Supreme Courts of various states will ultimately handle some of these issues. And so it's extremely important now more than ever that we understand who actually is serving on our state's highest court. And in Georgia, the electorate has a unique opportunity this session. Voting is happening right now to actually vote on who they want to serve on our state's highest court. So I've been telling folks, do your research, research the candidates and what they have to bring to the office, because the more you know, the better informed you are about the decisions that you will ultimately make. And then also just make sure that you amplify and spread the message about the importance of what the court does and the decisions that they make.
And the reality is this here. You do not run as nonpartisan, but the reality is conservatives dominate the Georgia Supreme Court. You have folks who've been nominated in the past as well. And so, although it's nonpartisan, you do have folks who, frankly, on different sides. And we saw in Wisconsin, granted, there they have partisan races. We saw what happened when that Supreme Court is now flipped 5-2, Democrat to Republican or progressive to conservative. We saw how the judicial rulings changed in North Carolina when Democrats controlled the Supreme Court there, when Sherry Beasley was the Chief Justice. We saw they ruled against racial gerrymandering, ruled against political gerrymandering. And so they balanced out what was happening. So because the Supreme Court has already said they have no place with political gerrymandering. It's really left up to the states. That's where state Supreme Courts are critical when it comes to rulings in the state.
I absolutely agree that the state Supreme Courts are very critical, and the court should not be a political body from the perspective of judges are acting like politicians in robes. That's the importance of having an independent judiciary that will focus on following the laws of the state and interpreting the state's constitution. So that's why it's essential that now more than ever that we know that the individuals that are on our Supreme Court are not leaning conservative. We need a balanced court, a court that can protect all Georgians and ensure that we have equal justice under the law. You know, growing up, that's something that I heard all the time. But then when I became a lawyer, I realized the importance of it not just being a saying, but something that is actually applied. And the Supreme Court is that last line in the state that applies that equal justice under the law for all Georgians and ensures that our Constitution protects those vital rights that we have. I believe that the right to vote is a vital right. And so it is important that we have a Supreme Court where we understand what their beliefs are and what the justices believe on these particular topics.
The folks at votemags.org had this story. It said, blow to Voting Rights Act amplifies stakes of Georgia Supreme Court elections. And we are seeing tremendous amounts of energy where people have been angered by the decision. And so how have you made the Supreme Court decision, the federal Supreme Court decision, how have you made that a part of your campaign in terms of how you're talking to people? Because there are many activists who have been calling for a state Voting Rights Act.
I will say that even before the Calais decision came down, one thing that has been very important to me is the access to the ballot and the right to vote. I was talking to a young man when I was going around just meeting people, and he said, how do I explain to my little mentees who say that my vote has no importance? It doesn't matter if I vote or not. How do I explain to them the importance of actually showing up for your state and local elections? And before the Calais decision even came down, I just reminded him, I said, you know, our people fought for this right, the right to have this sacred opportunity to participate in elections. And I think what we see from the federal level now more than ever, that if it wasn't something that was such an important right for us to have the right to vote, people wouldn't be attacking it so hard. And so it's always been a part of my personal belief system that the access to the ballot and the right to vote is very important, very sacred. And so I've just been continuing to spread that message of it's important that we all exercise our right to vote and we vote the entire ballot. Someone mentioned the importance of going down the ballot. For a lot of races, what we see is that people know who's running for the president, or they know who's running for governor or for Congress. It is rare that individuals in a state even know who serves on the Supreme Court. If you go and poll people and say, give us the name of one sitting Supreme Court justice in your state, they probably won't be able to do that.
Yep.
Let alone do people typically know who's even running for the Supreme Court in a contested race. So education has been pivotal and it has been key, and just making sure that we inform the electorate that your vote matters, your vote counts, and this is an opportunity to shape what Georgia looks like for future generations to come.
Votesmag.com said this here: no justice on the Georgia Supreme Court has lost an election in more than 100 years. That is in part the product of an election system that shields judges from competition, limits voter turnout, and today has left this swing state with a high court dominated by GOP appointees. Now, here's the thing right here that I need folks who are watching the show to understand. Miracle, we often complain about gerrymandering. We often complain about how these things are set. Your race is statewide. So
it is.
So there's no gerrymandering. This is all about who's going to get the most votes. And so if black folks have a massive voter turnout in Georgia, that paves the way for you to achieve victory. And so I need folks in Georgia to realize this ain't no gerrymander. This ain't no, well, you know, I can't. No, this is a statewide race, and this can actually happen. History can be made if we maximize our turnout on primary day.
Yes. Yes, I absolutely agree with you. People have asked me, why am I running? Right now, we are living in very unprecedented times. And at the federal level, we're seeing more and more things being taken away and being sent back to the states. And when you're living in unprecedented times, you need bold, new leaders with new voices who are willing to stand up for the rule of law and the Constitution being fairly applied. And you're right, the people in our state get the opportunity. Every person has a vote that is an eligible voter in our state, and you get to make that decision of what you want your Supreme Court to look like. So that's why I say it's so important just to make sure that we have these conversations to educate the electorate on the importance of voting in this race, and ensuring that, you know, tell a friend to tell a friend, put it in your group chats, tell your sororities, tell your fraternities that it's important that we get the vote, get out and we vote in this particular election. My election's not in November. It's happening right now.
Yep.
It's in May.
Yep, absolutely.
And I just ask that people vote for Miracle Rankin for the Georgia Supreme Court.
Early voting is happening right now, correct?
Correct. It's happening right now through May 15th. Election day is on May 19th. There are quite a few precincts across the state that have Saturday voting. So just check your Saturday voting locations too. I was able to vote this weekend with my family. It literally took 8 minutes. So I would say, please, you know, exercise your right to vote and do it early. Make your voting plan.
Absolutely. Okay. So again, folks, I'm gonna pull up this. So listen, there are two folks. This is a photo here. Go back to my iPad. Right here. So y'all, two folks. If y'all in Georgia, I want y'all to vote, cast your vote for Miracle Rankin and Jen Jordan. Those two are running for the Supreme Court in Georgia. Make history, y'all. Make history in Georgia. An incumbent is not lost in 100 years. Break that sucker right now. Again, cast your ballots in Georgia for Miracle Rankin and Jen Jordan for the Georgia Supreme Court. Miracle, we certainly appreciate it. Good luck in your race.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I want to go back to my panel. Scott had to go. Thelma and Omekongo. Thelma, I'm going to go to you first. This is a perfect example. This is a statewide race. We don't have to sit here and guess this thing. Every vote will count, and folk in Georgia should be racing to the polls to elect those to the Supreme Court.
Oh, absolutely. I think we have a very pivotal but promising time right now because we have the blueprint. We are energized. We see what the game plan is on the other side. And it's up for us to go in and score the winning shot. And the winning shot is for us to mobilize and go out and vote because our vote counts. So if anyone is sitting out there saying that your vote does not make a difference, it does. And we're seeing it today, modern day. We are seeing that our votes matter. They mattered before, and we're seeing the results of us not capitalizing and really going out and making sure our voices are heard. But right now is a very pivotal time. We have nothing to lose. We have everything to gain. So sitting on the couch is not an excuse. It is not the time. The time now is to go out and vote right, and vote right away, because we cannot sit on the sidelines and allow anything to get in the way or distract us from our goal, because we see what they're doing. We see it. It's in 4K. We don't need no other proof. The proof is been written. We just got to go and rewrite it by voting.
Omekongo, I'm telling you, I need us to understand. We saw it already in Georgia with those 2 Public Service Commission seats Republicans were shocked when they lost those 2 seats. 2 Democrats won, including your sister. They'll be shocked here. And so, in fact, Isaac Hayes put out, there was a graphic he actually posted on my social media, and he showed how 800,000 to 1 million black folks have not voted in the last 2 elections. That's crazy. In Georgia. You got black power, but you don't use it.
Yeah, the power just can't be with the film industry and Tyler Perry. And people just talk about that's where the black power is. The black power is in the voting. And I think if there's one takeaway I got from tonight, and I've been getting this from all of your shows recently, is that we need to stop being so personality driven as it relates to voting and focus on being policy driven. Like, and it starts with these courts. I mean, the laws that they are making, whether we're talking about, abortion rights, affirmative action, and so on and so forth, it all comes from the courts. And so if we just vote with a strategic mind towards who's going to be on these judicial ballots, it's really going to help us become more educated and more informed about the actual politicians that we need to be putting in office. So we don't start saying, well, I don't like what Hillary did to Obama, so I'm not going to vote. Like that type of ridiculous mindset that makes people stay home or not exercise their power. Those Isaac Hayes III stats about Georgia is disgusting, in a state like that, with all of the work that Stacey Abrams and others have done. And so I'm so glad you had the sister on tonight, because where else are we going to see her? MS Now, like all of these other networks, they're not doing it. We have the power, but power not actualized is just as bad as not having the power at all.
This is what Isaac Hayes had posted on his social media. 900,000 to 1.1 million eligible black Georgians did not vote. The 2018 governor's race was decided by 54,723 votes. The 2022 governor's race was decided by 191,581 votes. Y'all, 900,000 to 1.1 million black people did not vote. In 2024, North Carolina, Donald Trump won that state by 160,000 votes. Some 600,000 black people did not vote in North Carolina in 2024. Now, if you want to understand, again, and I keep telling y'all, if you want to understand what happens when we turn out, what happens when we vote, I go to 2008. This was for the New York Times. Total turnout in 2008 was about the same as it was in 2004, about 64% of voting age citizens. It said, but with Barack Obama on the ballot, the makeup of the 131 million who voted last year was markedly different. While the number of non-Hispanic white voters remained roughly the same, 2 million more blacks, 2 million more Latinos, and 600,000 more Asians turned out. Compared with 2004, the voting rate for black, Asian, and Hispanic voters increased by about 4 percentage points. The rate for whites declined by 1 percentage point. What have I been telling y'all? When white voters are here and we go here, we can win. Y'all, it said it increased by 4 points. Not 10, not 15, not 20, 4 points. So if you sit here, look at this here. They said turnout varied widely by state. A high of 75% in Minnesota to 52% in Utah. This 70% turnout total in Maryland, Mississippi, Maryland black, Mississippi black, Missouri, Nevada, Ohio, South Carolina, turnout among blacks surpassed 70%. What have I been saying? Why do y'all now understand why I keep saying 70% should be the minimum? The difference between 55% and 70% is huge. Now, look at this here. 2004, according to the census, barely 60% of eligible blacks voted. In 2008, nearly 65% did, as did 60% of the white voting age citizens. But when the data later came out, it showed that black people turned out at a higher percentage than whites. Y'all, that's 5 percentage points. That's how this thing changes. Now, let me go back down here. It says, but one of the biggest changes was the gap between black and white participation. In 2004, the rate of black voter registration was 10 percentage points below that of whites. Last year, it narrowed to 4 percentage points. Of the 206 million citizens 18 and older, 71% were registered to vote. Among those who were registered, 90% voted in 2008. Now listen to this. Tom File, a voting analyst with the Census Bureau, said the turnout among blacks ages 18 to 24 increased 8% from 2004 to 55%. Y'all, 18 to 24 at 55%? That helped drive the overall turnout in that group to 49%, still lower than among older eligible voters. What is that saying? Young people, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, stop bitching and moaning about older politicians and people voting for older folk, because guess what? Older people vote. If y'all vote y'all numbers, y'all can absolutely wipe out folks at the ballot box. But what did it just say? 71% were registered, of the 206 million citizens 18 and older, 71% were registered to vote. Among those who registered, 90% voted in 2008. But see, when you go down and look at the numbers right here, it says it right here. Guess what? It says that, young folks, you got to vote. Among voters, listen, among voters 18 to 24 and 25 to 44, y'all need y'all listen. I need y'all to listen. Among voters 18 to 24 and 25 to 44, blacks voted at a higher rate than whites in 2008. Older people vote. So more white people, 45 plus, voted than blacks, 45 plus. That means millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, if y'all would mobilize and organize your demographic, y'all can outpace white voters and we will win. Y'all, this is very simple. When you see the gap, let me just say it again. When you see the turnout gap, hold on. When you see the turnout gap, when you see this chart right here, the reason the gap is expanding is not because all of a sudden white folks' number are exploding. Now you see right here, you see racial gaps. One of the reasons the white vote went above 70% in 16, 20, and 24 is because the black number dropped. Y'all, you cannot change politics when this happens. It's a numbers game, y'all. So when 900,000 and 1.1 million don't vote in Georgia, when 600,000 don't vote in North Carolina, when more than 200,000 don't vote in Mississippi, when you have upwards of 1 million in Texas who don't vote, y'all, our power is sitting on a couch, is on the basketball court, is at the bar, is at the club, So when somebody complains about tangibles, well, you are guaranteed not to get any tangibles if you don't vote. And the reality is this: we got a two-party system in this country. I didn't pick it. I would love for the United States to be like Britain, where you had multiple parties and you got to put together a coalition government. The same in Israel, the same in Germany, the same in Italy. We don't have that. I'm going to say it again. When these simple Simons say, you trying to shield, get us voting for Democrats, we need to be independent. Need I remind you that there are two independents in the United States Senate? One of them is Senator Angus King. The other is Senator Bernie Sanders. What party does Angus King and Bernie Sanders coalition with? What party do they partner with? Not Republicans, Democrats. So what Angus King and Bernie Sanders have decided is that we're independents, but when it comes to the issues that we stand for, who do we more align with, Democrats or Republicans? Black people, I am advocating a black agenda. When I say a black party, I am meaning black interest. Black interest means, here are my issues. Here's what I want to happen. Who lines up with where I stand? Which party am I more likely to get what I want? Is it Republicans or is it Democrat? What we have seen since 1964, it ain't them. That's a simple fact. Now, when somebody says the Democrats have paid us lip service, I'm then want to ask them, okay, name me the issues you believe that they have not delivered on. And I'm then going to say, can you tell me where Republicans stand? Republicans and Democrats. And what I'm then going to ask you is, okay, so of the two parties, which one has the likelihood of addressing the issues that you say they paid lip service? Is it Republicans or Democrats? It's a binary choice. It's either one or the other. This is not an extensive debate. It's simple math. If you are black and you have an agenda, which one are you likely to pick? Now, if you are black and you say, I want lower taxes, I want higher defense spending, I want cuts to the food program, Republican Party. If those are your interests, but if you say, I believe in everybody having the right to vote, I believe in supporting civil rights, I believe I want more black businesses to participate in federal contracting, if you say, I believe in black maternal health and I want more federal dollars being spent on black maternal health, every time you name one of those issues, a finger is disappearing from Republicans, which means that they ain't support none of that. So now who are you left with? And now after you vote, and if they win, your job is to put pressure on that Democrat to come through with what you voted for. Which is why I say at the end of the election, we can't check out of the process. We got to stay fully engaged. But I'm guaranteed to never get anything that I desire if I don't vote. I'm guaranteed not to get anything that I desire if I don't register. So complaining on social media and whining at the beauty shop or the barber shop or wherever you meet literally does nothing. Because I'm telling you, the other side, they're mobilizing, they're organizing, they're strategizing. The Republicans in South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Texas, Arkansas. Oh, they're flat out using their power to change the laws to benefit them and their white base. So why are we not going to use our power at the ballot box to make it hard as hell for them to do that? We must have the largest mass mobilization of black voters in 2026 that we have not seen since 2008. We need black folks with a fervor, like I saw that picture in Mound Bayou, where they said there was a near riot as 13,000 people were trying to grab voter registration forms. What must happen is that we should be thinking of that placard at the Lorraine Motel, the National Civil Rights Museum, where a young girl was quoted saying, "All I want for my 18th birthday is a voter registration card." The GOP has a war on Black America. And in a war, you do two things. You either fight with all your might or you surrender. Black America, you have to make a decision. Are you prepared to fight in 2026? And remember, when you fight a war, it means you're fighting for future generations. Are you prepared to fight in 2026? Or are you prepared to surrender to white supremacists, white nationalists, and the Republican Party advancing the interest of white voters at the expense of African Americans and others? Freedom Summer commences right now. It is time for us to go to war. Ome Congo, I appreciate it. Thelma, I appreciate it. Scott, I appreciate it as well. Let me thank all of the guests we had on today's show. This will not be the last time we had these conversations. We're going to continue to educate y'all. Today they had a protest in New Orleans. Tomorrow, Win with Black Men is having their call. Also, folks, do me a favor. If you are a black man or a black woman, I want you, Bishop William Barber, they are having a mobilization, a training session, June 12th and 13th. We have been asking people to sign up. I had y'all sitting here hitting up. Now, here's the deal. Go to my iPad. So initially, remember we told you he was looking for 1,000 alphas. And that's primarily because he's an alpha, I'm an alpha, and we were trying to specifically engage those brothers at the regional convention. So here's what Bishop Barber has done. If y'all go to blackstarnetwork.com, you do not have to email me again. If you go to blackstarnetwork.com, what you can do is you can click this link right here. Let me click it. You click this link right here, and it will take you to their site. And this is the form right here. Now, we specifically ask on here we ask if you're an alpha. Again, that's something special we're doing. If you click it and you're not, it's not a problem if you don't click it. But this is the whole point here. If you are looking to be trained in organizing and mobilizing voters, they are having training. Go back to the form. They're having training. I want you to go to blackstarnetwork.com. Again, go to blackstarnetwork.com, and what you do is you're going to click this story right here. Bishop William Barber is looking for black men and women who want to be trained to organize and mobilize black voters. Y'all, that's what's happening. So do me a favor, go to blackstarnetwork.com, share it with all of your platforms. Y'all, we're talking about training people. It's going to be a 2-day virtual training that will take place. Now, last night, Win with Black Women had 8,000 sisters on their call last night, answering the call when it came to this war that we're in. That was last night. Tomorrow at noon Eastern, Bishop Brazier out of Chicago, faith leaders are having a news conference at noon laying out their strategy for the election. We will live stream it here on the Black Star Network. It's going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central. Other groups are doing this here. And so what we're going to do is through our email, if y'all, Keenan, if people want to subscribe to our email database, where do they go? Give me a second. Is it on the website? Y'all let me know. Control room, talk to me. Yeah, if y'all want to subscribe, there you go. So right here, if you go to blackstarnetwork.com, you click subscribe, you can actually subscribe to our email newsletter. If you also want to donate, you got the donate buttons right here as well. But so again, we're building the newsletter up. We're going to be pumping out all this information on our social media, on all of our platforms. Last night, the Alphas had their call. And so other groups are having their call. And so we're going to be driving this because we have to have a massive black voter mobilization, and that's what our focus is. And so that's what we do on this show. As I told y'all, I don't waste my time with no housewives and no gossip and other stuff. This is about educating, enlightening, and empowering our people. Y'all, this is all hands on deck because they are trying to destroy the black infrastructure. They're trying to destroy black political power. They want to destroy everything that we fought for since the end of the Civil War, since Reconstruction, 92 years of Jim Crow, 13 years of the Black Freedom Movement, 60 years of black political progress. They want to wipe that out. And I'll say there's no way in hell that we gonna stand here and let them wipe out what our ancestors fought for, and we're gonna let them do it without a fight. As my frat brother Vertner Woodson Tandy said, we will fight until hell freezes over, and then we will fight on the ice. That has to be our attitude. Folks, support the work that we do here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. If you want to join our Bring the Funk fan club, your dollars make it possible. We plan on traveling across the country this summer with Freedom Summer. We plan on hitting these states where people are doing the work. We're not wasting our time with people pontificating on what we should do. We're talking to people who are doing the work. If y'all want to help fund that, please join our Bring the Funk fan club. The goal is to get 20,000 people on average to contribute $50 each a year. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. That goes a long way in funding this because, listen, we went to Shreveport. That's somebody sponsoring that, so your support is critical. So please do so. If you want to contribute via Cash App, this right here, the Stripe QR code, you see it right here. Right here, Cash App changed their rules, so we had to get rid of our account, but we use the Stripe QR code. You can actually donate. If you go to blackstarnetwork.com, you can also donate as well. So go to my iPad. So if you go to blackstarnetwork.com, y'all, it's real simple. You click Cash App button. It takes you right to the square page. If you check some money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 2003 7-0196. If you go to blackstarnetwork.com and you go to my iPad, if you click the PayPal button right here on the website, it takes you right to PayPal. If you, it's New Vision Media, that's the parent company. If you got Venmo, click the Venmo button, it takes you right to Venmo. If you want Zelle, it takes you right to Zelle. So the bottom line is, it's all right here on the website to support everything that we do. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. You want to get our Roland Martin Unfiltered swag, please do so. Go to shopblackstarnetwork.com, shopblackstarnetwork.com. Support our black-owned businesses. More than 50 companies are on our website, so go to our marketplace. All these products you see in our studio, these are all black-owned companies, so please support them as well. Do me a favor, if you want to support, download the app Fan Base, please support that. Follow me at Roland S. Martin. It's black-owned social media app. We got to be able to have our own platforms. These conservatives, these right-wing conservatives have bought TikTok. They control Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. So we got to have our own. So download the app Fan Base. Every day, Brittany Noble hosts a breakdown with Brittany Noble, noon Eastern. Be sure to watch every day, noon Eastern, right here on the blackstarnetwork.com. Folks, that is it. It's war, and it's time for us to draft our people in this battle. Folks, I'll see y'all tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. Holla!